What's up, guys? Welcome back to Quitting Mary, where we discuss everything about quitting marijuana, quitting weed, quitting ganja, quitting pot, whatever you want to call it. So today I want to discuss what happened after I quit weed for a year. Now, if you're not familiar with my journey on why I decided to quit weed, I have the video linked up here or below, wherever. But okay, initially, when I was going through my journey of trying to quit weed, I would do the thing where I would quit for a week, quit for a couple weeks. I quit for a month one time. I was pretty proud of myself, but like most stoners who are trying to quit weed, maybe not most, like myself, I would reward myself for not smoking. Not smoking. I would say like, okay, I went 2 weeks without smoking. That's pretty good. That's pretty damn good, Chaz. Like, I'm so proud of you. Now, why don't you reward yourself with a blunt? The problem with that is that, okay, I would smoke that one blunt, and I'll smoke the next day, and the next day, day after that, and before I know it, I'm back smoking every day. I went through a phase where I would smoke in intervals during the week. I would say I would smoke every other day, or smoke 2 days and not smoke for 3 days. And I'll do that for a week or two or three. And then I'll say I'll get stressed or get mad about something. And I'll say, well, just want to get high. And say, well, I mean, I'm going to smoke tomorrow, so I might as well smoke today. Or I smoked yesterday, or I can smoke today. And before I know it, I'm back smoking every single day. So it people ask me like, have you ever relapsed? And I feel guilty sometimes saying no, but being honest with myself, it took me a long time to fully quit weed. I would take, as they say, tolerance breaks, and then, like I said, smoke again. And it will. I think weed is tricky with tolerance breaks because, like, you will, if you don't smoke for like a week or two, and then you smoke a blunt, like the tolerance kind of picks back up. So you kind of, if you smoke weed for a long period of time, it takes a lot more weed to get you high. But if you don't smoke for 2 3 weeks, you kind of go back to getting high like you did 4 5 10 years prior. So I was smoking less, but I was kind of getting higher in this weird way. So whatever the case, when I didn't relapse when I finally decided I'm going to quit weed for good. I made up in my mind, but I didn't make up my mind that I was gonna just quit for good. I said if I can not smoke for a full year, if I can smoke for not smoke for a full year, I'll get it out of my system, and then I'll only smoke on my birthdays, when I go on vacation, we go visit a friend in Las Vegas, visit somewhere where it's legal. I'll indulge, I'll enjoy myself, and I'll have a blunt. Okay, when it came time after the year where I proved to myself that I can go a year, I can go my life without smoking weed, I got to my birthday, I didn't actually want to smoke weed. I feel like, and I didn't want to smoke because I felt like I was gonna go back to my old ways. I was pretty confident, and I'm still pretty confident that I can smoke a blunt now and not fall back into my old ways. But what was surprising was I didn't have a strong desire to do so. Like, what was the point of me smoking if I didn't really want to smoke? Why would I not just keep my sobriety from this substance? So my birthday came and I didn't want to smoke. I didn't smoke. Came time, we go to vacation. And this is over more than a year after I've quit. And we're going to Las Vegas, of all the city of vices, whether you want to gamble, drink, smoke weed, buy a prostitute, whatever. It's there. So I was like, okay, when I said if I go to Vegas, I'm gonna indulge. I'll just, have an edible, smoke a joint. Surprisingly, I did not want to smoke when I got there. And I was so proud of myself that I got to a point to where, my goal at the beginning was if I could just get to a point where I could just smoke occasionally and be okay. But the longer I smoked, the longer I held true to my sobriety. When I did get to a point where, okay, I've proven to myself I can do it. I can reward myself or smoke a joint or whatever. I didn't want to. So surprisingly, you'll be surprised how much you can change your mind in a year's time. Really in shorter than that. But I'll say a full year to give yourself full confidence that you can go a lifetime without doing this said thing. So when I went to Vegas, I passed so many cannabis shops, and I didn't want to smoke. And like I said, it's different not wanting to smoke because I'm afraid I might relapse, or like I want to smoke so bad, but I'm not gonna go in there because I wasn't. I just didn't want to do it. It's like pills. Like pills never was my thing. I have experimented with pills. I took some Percocets, some ecstasy. You get your little rush, your little high, and I'm like, it's over. I'm like, who like this is for the birds. So then that was my thing, and so I can not do pills. I still do drink alcohol, not every day. Not I would say I drink alcohol like say socially with my wife on date night, like every 2 to 3 weeks, possibly. So alcohol never was my thing like that. Weed was my thing. I was smoking weed the moment I woke up to the moment I went to sleep. I cannot drink like that. I never cared to do pills like that. So, but I'm to a point where I feel about weed as I feel about pills. I don't have to have it at all. So that was surprising to me how I got to that point after a year of not smoking weed. And I've heard some stories where people have relapsed after 6, 12, or a year. Or I've heard stories like mine to where they went back and tried it. It was like, I don't like this. Why am I doing this? This sucks. So, if you guys have not smoked for 6 months, a year, do you want to smoke again? Is it tempting you? Is it calling your name? Do you walk past a car and smell it and say, I'm gonna call my weed man? Is it? How do you feel? Or are you like it doesn't do it for me anymore? And when I quit weed, I quit weed. I joked I quit weed on good terms. My life wasn't wrecked. She wasn't like weed wasn't like it hadn't turned my life upside down. I wanted to quit at a point where I could, like I said, have a celebration smoke if I wanted to in the distant future. But when I got to that future, I didn't want to do it. So let me know how you guys feel. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's not just me. Whatever the case. Comment below. Until next time, guys, remember we are all in this together.
I choose substance over substances. I choose growth over stagnation. I choose to aim for the clouds and not get lost in the clouds. I have chosen to stumble in darkness for many years, but now the lights are on. The temperature has been turned up, and I am ready for the challenge. The chains no longer dictate how far I can go, what I can achieve, and who I can be. Mary Jane, we have had our run. We have had our fun. But now it's time for me to explore my own mind without your influence. Many people might say I am overthinking this, And you're a great girl. I mean, everyone is on your bandwagon right now. But I know you, and you know me. It's time for change. It's time for growth. It's time for progression. I am not just letting you go, but I am gaining so much more. Not only do I regain my mind, but I gain a optimized version of myself. I am free to think, free to live, free to explore, and free from your chains. As I learn what it means to be a man, my vision becomes clear around me. I am able to see the beauty in nature, in myself, in my surroundings, in my function. As I become a Renaissance man, I realize what life was destined for me. Are you free? Are you on your correct path? It would behoove you to take the road less traveled without her. Become the enhanced version of yourself. Your future self will thank you.
Is it me, guys, or does my fingers look like they have light powers coming out of them? Alright guys, welcome back to Quitting Mary, and today I wanted to go into a very simplistic video discussing why I decided to quit weed. And if you're new to this channel, this is Quitting Mary, where I discuss my journey about quitting weed, and I want to help those who are also on the journey. Now, if you smoke weed, I'm not trying to convince you. If you are trying to quit weed, I'm also still not trying to convince you, but I am here to relate to you. So, with all that being said, let's get into the story. Okay, first I would say, how did I start smoking weed? So, like many teens across America, I smoked my first blunt on my 16th birthday. I was 16. I was getting my driver's license, and I had the whole night planned out. Me and my best friend Rodney, we were going to Brittany Brown's 16th birthday party. So I'm gonna get my license. I'm gonna pick him up. He asked me, he was like, "Do you smoke weed?" I'm like, "Yeah," but I really didn't smoke weed. But okay, I'm like, we're gonna actually we're going to a Merrill's football game and then Brittany Brown's party. So anyway, the night of, I smoked my first blunt. It was okay. I mean, I think maybe thinking back, I think it probably was not a good package because I was definitely supposed to be high. It's my first blunt, but I didn't feel the effects my first time. It was just okay, all right. I wasn't hooked, but the more and more I smoked, weekend after weekend, I smoked more and more. Actually, I went into weed so much that we would buy a dime bag. We would smoke like one, maybe two between us that night. And for like a month or two, he would go home with the rest, although I would pay for it. So it got to a point where when I started to actually enjoy weed, I'm like, I bought it, it's coming with me. He didn't like that once that started happening, but I mean, I paid for it. So throughout my teen years, it increased more and more up into my mid-20s to where at that point I was smoking every single day. Now, my mother is a big part of the story of my journey because my mother has always smoked weed my whole life. I never knew my mother not smoking weed. And she was a business professional. She had a downtown job, 8 to 5:30. She smoked her weed. It was nothing to see a joint in her closet with red lipstick around the joint. So if she ever like got caught in a murder mystery, they'd be like, "Man, Miss Dish your joint with this red lipstick." So anyway, towards my early 20s, my parents got a divorce and me and my mom moved in together. I was in college. At that time, although I knew although she smoked weed, and at that point she knew I smoked weed, we didn't start smoking weed together until I was about 21, 22. So at that point we became like brother and sister, and we bought our weed together and we got high together. I'm not proud to say that, but it is what it is. So throughout my 20s, weed became a very intricate part of my life. My friends smoked weed, my mom smoked weed, my girlfriend, my wife, and at the time she was my girlfriend. She smoked weed. Actually, she didn't smoke weed as much. She was open to it, but I perhaps made her smoke more than what she would if she hadn't met me. Anyway, weed was a big part of my life. If we hung out, weed was involved. At my height, I would say about 10 blunts a day, which I do not know how I was functioning as a person, but whatever the case, I love weed. Okay, fast forward to about, I would say, 8 years ago, I started my spiritual journey, my spiritual regrowth. I started to get into the Bible. I've been going to church my whole life. Like most Christians, go to church, but don't really care for the Bible. I would say I was probably, like most Christians, an atheist that went to church. But I read the Bible. I had a Bible, went to church my whole life, but I didn't fully get immersed into the actual Bible until me approaching my 30s, my late 20s. At that point, I was almost becoming a new person, becoming my new self, becoming my more enlightened self. But at the same time, I couldn't stop smoking weed. I quit a lot of things in my life. I quit porn. I quit going out with my friends. I quit partying. I started doing the Shabbat. I started doing Passover, the biblical feast days, but I was still smoking weed every day. And the deeper I got into my journey, the more it bothered me that I still continue to smoke weed, but not enough that I was to quit, because I always thought that I'll quit weed when I'm about 40 or 50, when I've just smoked so much weed to my heart's desire. Then when I'm getting old, like most people say, well, I'll change once I'm old, which is an excuse to never, ever change, ever. So what led me to quit weed? And as I've said, my spiritual journey was the first thing. Although it was odd to me that although I was on this journey, I kind of kept weed to myself. I never fully asked God to help me with weed. I'm like, well, I'll fix it myself, or I'll fix it myself, and I can kick it. But I was using him for all these things in my life, but not with this addiction that had a pretty large hold on me. And there was another reason why I wanted to quit. I did not like the hold that weed had over me. A lot of times, weed heads, pot heads will say that weed isn't addictive. I can quit anytime I want to. And because weed is not as stigmatized as things like cocaine, crack, heroin, even cigarettes, alcohol, things like that, will say weed is not really addictive. But most who say that smoke weed every day and have an issue by not smoking weed every day. So if I can't go a day without smoking weed, or if I can go hours without smoking weed, you probably got an addiction. So I didn't like the whole weed had over me. If I would not smoke for a day, like I said, I would be extremely stressed out, extremely anxious, waiting to get to that blunt. And it got to a point, even when I would smoke and get relieved, I'm thinking about the next time that I'm going to get high. So it was just constant cycle of getting ready to smoke, smoking, or thinking, when was the next time I'm going to smoke? I also got tired of hiding it, tired of living almost like this double life. As I said, my wife, she was smoking weed with me, but when she got pregnant with our second child, she quit. And she never told me that I had to quit weed, but I just felt guilty myself. So in turn, I started to hide it from her. So I was smoking every day, and she wasn't aware that I was smoking every day. I would look if I'm going to the grocery store as a time to smoke. If I'm taking the dog outside, I can smoke. If I'm going to the garden, cutting the yard, all these times that I had to leave the house was also an opportunity that I could smoke weed, and it became a whole process doing so. Of course, because I was lying to her, so I wanted to hide me being high. So, of course, your fingertips, if you smoke weed, that's the number one giveaway. I started buying latex gloves and smoking with gloves, so my hands wouldn't smell like weed. Of course, I had my cologne. I would Febreze first, then cologne. I started using Clear Eyes, which I hate because I feel like if I got to use Clear Eyes, it's kind of blowing my high. But I didn't want to get caught. I kind of got big eyes, so I'm like, I don't really need Clear Eyes because my eyes are big. But I mean, I don't care how big your eyes are. If you smoke enough weed, you're going to look high. So it became this whole ordeal with me smoking and trying to hide it from her. Of course, like most potheads, I would get caught every now, not every time. I mean, not a lot of times, but I would get caught sometimes. And then it'd be this big deal. And then she would say then also I would lie. She would say, "You been smoking?" No, no. Mm-mm. So I would lie and say I'm not smoking, or say, well, I just smoke every now and then, and you just caught me now. Not, not saying that I kind of smoke weed every day. If she left the house, there was time to smoke. Okay, I was waiting for her to leave. I would wait 10 minutes, go outside, smoke my piece of blunt, give me time for her before she get back, where I can kind of let the high wear off. When she come back, then at that point I'm going to find another reason or another avenue to get out the house to get high again. I also would smoke when I would watch the kids when she would be gone. I was always afraid. I was either afraid she was going to pull back up and I was on the porch getting high, or the kids were going to get hurt because they are a wild pair, and I was going to be high. And I'm like, if they're hurt and I'm high, my wife is a detective. She was gonna know I was high, and that was gonna be like. So anyway, it never happened, thank God. But I got tired of living that life, thinking this anxiety of if I get caught, what if this happens, and then so I got tired of doing that. I really related to Tony Atlas. He's a wrestler. If any wrestling fans out there, I remember him talking on the podcast about his journey with quitting weed. He was like, he got tired of hiding from his wife, and he was like, he simply quit because he just got tired of doing it. And I relate to it because that wasn't my only reason, but you get tired of hiding it. You go through too much to actually smoke weed and hide weed. You might as well not even get high. It's blowing my high. If I can't freely get high, and like I said, she never told me that. It wasn't like she said, "Chaz, you cannot smoke," and I didn't smoke. But she never said that. But I myself felt guilty, so I was hiding it. If I'm going through all that in my mind, then just quit. It also became extremely expensive, like everything now, whether it's gas or eggs. We know rent, everything is high now. Weed is no different. Where I could, get $40 to last me a whole week. Years prior, that would last every few days here. And even when I got to a point to where I would smoke a very small amount, let's say a 20 bag a week, a quarter a week, that's still expensive. I'm cheap, and I was also on a financial budgeting journey, so I was trying to save as much. I still am saving as much money as I can to try to get control of my finances, of my money, so I don't get swallowed up by this place called America. So $20, even that was still a lot when you add up your weekly expenses. There's still thousands of dollars a year that you're spending on weed. Not to mention you're buying cigars or papers or wraps or bongs or vapes. it it was too much. It was too much. Whether I was smoking $80 a week, 20 a week, that money could be going in my pocket, in my savings, to something more productive. And lastly, I just didn't want to be defined by weed. Smoking weed for me almost 20 years. You know, people, they tend to identify you with weed. You know, I would meet people and be like, "You still smoke?" And I'm like, "That's not good." If I haven't seen anybody in 10 years and they're like, "Do you still smoke weed?" Like, I'm like, do I really want to be known as a weedhead? I mean, of course, when you're younger, when you're 18, early 20s, you don't really care. It's not a big deal. You might think it's cool or it's a fun thing. You know, I love weed. I smoke weed. I don't care. I wear a weed shirt. Blah, 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 blah. The older you get, and I got a family and children, I don't want people to be like, "Oh, you still smoke weed?" I didn't want that to be a part of my identity anymore. And I had to admit, weed just became so intertwined with everything in my life. And not to mention, a big one, I almost forgot this, my appetite. I did not want to eat unless I smoked. And a big reason why I prolonged quitting weed, because I was afraid I was going to lose so much weight. Because obviously I'm a thin guy. I can't afford to lose any pounds. So I also have a high metabolism, so I can like eat a whole lot and not gain weight. But if I'm like not wanting to eat, then like I'm gonna look like Christian Bale from The Machinist. Like it's. But I didn't like that. I feel like if weed has intertwined its way into how I eat, how I think, how I handle my emotions, how I handle my feelings, how I handle stress, that's not good. I use it as a crutch to help me. I use it as a crutch to help me with things in life that I should be able to handle on my own. Especially if I call myself a spiritual person. How am I so spiritual, but I need a blunt to wake up, to go to sleep, to get through work? I'm not too spiritual. I'm a weed addict. So all these reasons, and there's probably many more if I sit here and think here long enough, but those are the main reasons why I decided I needed to quit weed. Now, I will go into the avenues I took to quit weed in another video, but let me know, guys, what made you decide to quit weed? Was it just, it wasn't, you weren't getting high anymore? Was it controlling you? Did you have CHS? I did have bouts, what I think now with CHS that I didn't know then, but now CHS is a more common thing. I probably had that and didn't know it, but it wasn't as serious as people who throw up like every day or very frequently. But anyway, what reasons made you decide that it was time for you to quit? I would like to know, because all our stories are similar, but in a way they're all kind of different too. So until next time, guys, like, subscribe, share. Most importantly, comment below. Let me know what made you guys realize it was time to quit weed. You knew it was time. Next time, guys, we are all in this together. Peace.
What's up, guys? Okay, so I briefly wanted to hop on here to discuss my story, my battle with CHS. So you may be saying, what is CHS? So it's called cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. So it's basically your system has cannabinoid receptors. So in layman's term, the neurotransmitters from your brain and the ones from your esophagus are getting crossed up. So they're giving each system the wrong signals. So in turn, your brain is saying one thing, your esophagus is saying one thing, so your esophagus tightens up and causes you to throw up. So long story short, it's something where if you smoke a whole lot of weed, you throw up. Now, it doesn't affect everyone who smoke weed. It doesn't affect everyone the same. Some may get it every now and then. Some get it all the time. Just depends on the actual person. So I wanted to discuss my journey with CHS, and I didn't actually know I had CHS until years after I knew it was a thing. Probably like most people, because actually it's relatively new. Most doctors don't even realize what it is. They don't even test people for it because it's not on their radar. So, okay, flash forward back to when I was 16, 17. It was around Thanksgiving, I believe. And after Thanksgiving, of course, we have a big turkey. And the week after, I just have a lot of turkey sandwiches with nice white meat, mayo, white bread, hot sauce. Delicious. Okay, so I remember, because that week I was eating that, and I couldn't keep any of them down. So I would smoke, get high, come back in, eat my turkey sandwich, and throw it up. So I realized it kind of was a problem, so I went to the doctor. They didn't know what it was. They were doing all kind of tests. They could not come up with a reason on what was happening. I remember one day my doctor came in. They actually admitted me in the hospital because they were just running tests trying to figure out what was the issue. The doctor came in. He actually asked me, he was like, I wanted to ask you, why you're not in the room with your parents, because I know, kids like to smoke weed. They pass a blunt around. He did say blunt. That was odd. And sometimes they can pass germs, and people may catch these, these illnesses or viruses from passing the joint or blunt around. Like most people and most 16-year-olds would tell a doctor, no, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't smoke weed. Which I'm like, he probably had, obviously they ran all kind of tests. They probably saw I had a high amount of THC in my system, so I was like, I don't even smoke. So he was like, okay, it's just going nowhere. So it turns out they diagnosed me with histoplasmosis, in which he called bird shit disease. So basically, if you're around in the outside area where there's a lot of bird poop, the toxins from the bird poop comes into your system, gives you this virus called histoplasmosis. Again, it's called bird shit disease. My wife actually still doesn't, she thinks I'm making this story up. I'm like, I'm telling you, this is exactly what the doctor told me. Okay, so they wound up prescribing me, I believe it was prednisone. I wanted to say it was Prevacid, but I feel like it was prednisone because it was a steroid. Anyway, they prescribed me that. After about a week or two, my esophagus, they did tell me that my esophagus was getting enlarged, which was tightening up, which was causing me to throw up my food, similar to what CHS does. So was prescribed the steroid. After about a week or two, it went away. I didn't actually, I had no consistent issues with vomiting from that point on. Now, I would say about 10 years after that, when I was a full adult, I would have issues where it happened, I would say about 3 or 4 times where I was going to work and I got this immediate urge, and I, of course, had smoked a blunt or two before I headed to work, and I had to pull over to throw up. And I'm like, that's weird. What's that about? So it didn't happen enough to where I felt like it was a issue to get checked out. Maybe it was, but whatever. I don't like going to the doctor. I did not get it checked out. But once I quit weed and start learning about CHS, I said, maybe I actually probably had CHS in high school when that issue happened with me throwing up, when I was misdiagnosed, I believe, with histoplasmosis. Because also, I re-looked up the symptoms of histoplasmosis, and they said that it comes with fever and sweat and chills, basically flu-like symptoms plus vomiting. I didn't have flu symptoms. I basically, I couldn't hold my food down. I was throwing up, much like CHS. And even towards like I said, when I threw up a few times as an adult, the common link in there was I had smoked a lot of weed before that happened. And just like the stories now where people say they're being misdiagnosed with something else because doctors aren't testing people for CHS. So if you have been throwing up, whether a lot or just off and on, and it's a common thread of you being high or smoking shortly before that, it's a good chance you have CHS. Now, I will say the steroid he gave me did cure it, so maybe medication can help, but the best way to cure CHS is to not smoke. Quit smoking weed. Also, they said if you smoke weed like a lot, like I don't feel like if you smoke weed every now and then, you probably won't get it. But if you're like me and you smoke weed every single day for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and you're throwing up when you're high, you probably have CHS. So I know stories can differ depending on the person. Some may get vomiting every day, some every now and then, some just sporadically. It differs. So if you have a different story than mine, or more extreme or more odd, I would like to know, because it's a new disease. People don't know about it. No one is admitting that they're smoking weed all day. But now that states are legalizing weed, common weed use is more common, so probably CHS is probably more common. And if we're not discussing these things, like myself, you might get misdiagnosed. So comment below. Let me know if you have any similar or opposite journeys from mine. Until next time, like, subscribe, share, and remember, guys, we are all in this together. Peace.
Okay, since I have weird dreams on a regular basis on or off weed, I was not totally affected by nightmares or weird dreams once I quit weed, but I have heard of many accounts of ex-users having crazy dreams after they have quit. I found that interesting and wondered why that was a thing, and it was an interesting reason I discovered once I did a little research. Okay, so one reason many people say they use weed is to help them sleep. Now, while when you initially use weed in the beginning stages, it may actually help with sleep or can induce sleepiness during the day. But scientists have argued that consistent use of weed actually hurts the quality of sleep rather than helping it. The Sleep Foundation states, while THC typically acts as a sedative, it can have a stimulating effect on some people, especially for those who are new to using cannabis or taking higher doses. In these cases, using cannabis before bed may result in a longer time falling asleep. CBD appears to promote alertness at lower doses and sleepiness at higher doses. The effects of the two compounds together may depend on the dose and the timing. So, depending on the strain or the dose, weed can help you fall asleep faster, but it may actually affect the quality in your sleep cycles. The Sleep Foundation also states, short-term cannabis use appears to increase the time you spend in a deep sleep, the stage that helps you wake up feeling refreshed. However, THC decreases the amount of time you spend in the rapid eye movement sleep, also known as the REM cycle. That's when you spend more time dreaming, processing emotions, and cementing new memories. So that's why it's common for long-term users of cannabis to sleep longer, but they tend to not remember their dreams. Now, the REM sleep cycle is the deepest cycle of sleep you can have, and we all should be looking to make it to the REM cycle when we sleep. Now, this could work in your favor if you suffer from PTSD or commonly have nightmares in the first place, since you may not want to prolong the horrible dreams or the horrific flashbacks. Some long-term users also state while weed helped them in the beginning stages of going to sleep, they found it harder to sleep longer and found it harder to even go to sleep the longer they used weed. So in turn, they would just sit up for about 2 to 3 hours in deep thought or contemplation about any given situation or idea. So guys, when you smoke and you have all these ideas and your mind is just racing with thoughts, ideas, so you've been up for a couple hours just in deep thought about anything. Now, why do we have nightmares or weird dreams after we quit weed? For those people, smoking weed most likely decrease your quality of sleep, and you are never in the REM cycle long enough to go into a deep dream or remember the bits and pieces of your dreams. Now that you have stopped smoking, your body is getting used to falling asleep and staying asleep
in its natural state and natural cycle. Therefore, you have longer periods of the REM sleep cycle. You actually could have been having these same dreams, but you weren't able to remember them when you were using weed on a consistent basis. Now that your brain is clear of all the ganja, you actually remember what you dreamt the previous night. I find it interesting because, it's a piehead trope that it makes you forgetful, but we never consider being forgetful in our sleep. Now, you also may be having longer REM cycles, so your dreams can actually develop like a movie in your head. This feeling is probably new, so it can feel weird in the beginning. But the good news is, like with most weed withdrawal symptoms, they don't last very long. It is normal to experience these new dreams for about 2 to 4 weeks, longer for some people, but eventually they should go away. Now, unless you are me and you have odd dreams on a regular basis, but that's the story. But finally, I think dreams do tell us some things about ourselves, so maybe quitting weed can be some voluntary dream therapy for yourself. So try it out, see where it leads you, and your future self may thank you.
Do you have an addictive personality? Do you find yourself addicted to weed, addicted to alcohol, addicted to porn, addicted to video games, addicted to exercise, addicted to shopping? You can't seem to stop one addiction. You stop one and you start the other, and you find yourself down this spiral of addiction. Well, like myself, I've come to realize just some people just have these addictive qualities, and they can be a hindrance in life if you're trying to get somewhere and not be tied to one particular thing. But what if we turn this addiction around into something positive? Because the funny thing about life is there's a duality in most things. Where it's something negative, it can be an actual positive. So if you are, I'm going to say, blessed with this addictive personality, and you just find yourself in these dark spirals or addicted to things that don't bring you any type of positivity in your life, let's turn it around and use it for the positive. Do you want to start a business? Do you want better relationships? Do you want to start a weight loss journey? Do you want to be a better worker? Do you want to be a better father? Do you want to travel? Do you want to start a YouTube channel? These are things that you can become addicted to, but still use your addictive personality to your benefit. Now, like with any addiction, there is balance. Just say somebody smokes weed. There's nothing wrong with smoking weed once every 3 months, once every 6 months, every now and then. But it's when we smoke it every day, all day, and become addicted to it. Now turn around into your business here. You should focus on it every day to make it a successful business. But we still have to work on not using our addictive traits in a negative. We can get too consumed, too involved, overthink things. Just step back, take a breath, and it's gonna be okay. But I'm just going to end with, if you are one watching this who do have an addictive personality, stop viewing it as a negative. Realize today, right now, this moment, you have the best opportunity to make something great, to build something magnificent, to do something big outside of yourself. You have the qualities to throw yourself into something until you get a desired outcome. Just know, with any persistence and any concentrated effort at one particular thing, you will find success in that area. Your future self will thank you.
Okay, how does weed affect your dopamine? Does it help? Does it hurt? What's the deal? Stick around to find out. Okay, first, what's dopamine? And is that where we get the slang dope derived from? Okay, no, but that's kind of what I thought at first. But actually, dope is derived from the Dutch doop, which means dipping sauce, which was used in opium smoking back in the day. But anyways, how does dopamine work in our body? So,
Dopamine is a neurotransmitter made in your brain. Your body makes it, and your nervous system uses it to send messages between nerve cells. That's why it's sometimes called a chemical messenger. It plays a role as a reward center and in many body functions, including memory, movement, motivation, mood, attention, pain processing, sleep, learning, and more. Dopamine also acts as a hormone. As a hormone, dopamine is released into your bloodstream. It's made in the brain through a two-step process. First, it changes the amino acid tyrosine to a substance called dopa, and then into dopamine. So it is basically a mailman in your brain that delivers messages that dictates how you process different situations. In the word of these Huberman-ness podcasters, dopamine has become a very popular topic in relation to young men and how we deal with it. Apparently, we are always looking for ways to increase our dopamine levels, whether we achieve it through working hard at a goal over a long period of time, or simply just watching porn, playing video games, eating a snack, smoking weed, etc. So, is it a sin to increase your dopamine levels by smoking weed? Well, yes and no. If we smoke a joint every now and then, you would definitely get a dopamine increase, but that's okay to do it every now and then. But researchers have advised that repeated use of cannabis over a long period of time can reduce your dopamine brain response. Okay, so how does weed affect your brain? The main psychoactive ingredient, THC, stimulates the part of your brain that responds to pleasure, just like food and sex. That unleashes the dopamine, which gives you a euphoric, relaxed feeling. The THC level usually peaks in about 30 minutes, and the effects wear off in about 1 to 3 hours. That's if you're smoking it. But if you drink or eat cannabis in edible forms, it may take many hours for you to actually fully sober up. Okay, here's when we start getting to a possible issue with weed. About 1 in 10 people who use marijuana will become addicted, also known as cannabis use disorder. This means that you can't stop using it even if it harms your relationships, school, jobs, health, or finances. The CDC also states that you have a 10% risk of cannabis use disorder if you even use marijuana. The chances are greater the younger you start using and the more heavily you use it. For instance, the odds of addiction are 1 in 6 if you use pot in your teen years. It might be as high as 1 in 2 among those who use it every day. Okay, so let's go back to the brain and weed. Weed does contain cannabinoids, which is one of the main components found in CBD. CBD basically helps your system handle anxiety, mood, insomnia, and pain without getting you high. The interesting thing is that your body already has cannabinoids. They are often called endocannabinoids, and they regulate several bodily functions including sleep, mood, appetite, learning, memory, body temperature, pain, immune functions, and fertility. They control some of these same functions by regulating nerve cells that signal in your brain. So in short, they do the same thing as CBD, plus a little bit more, and again, without getting you high. So let's talk about this high thing, since that is probably one of the main reasons people tend to abuse weed. Getting high is really just one of the bonuses of using cannabis, but it sometimes becomes the main driver the more you use it. And of course, the more you use it, the more you become immune to the effects. So in turn, you need to smoke more or use a stronger dose. After doing this for years and years and years, it throws off the dopamine levels in your system. On top of you needing more weed to achieve a substantial high, your dopamine levels decrease when you actually quit weed. In turn, your body has to relearn how to achieve normal dopamine levels by doing things that give you the natural high, such as sleep, exercise, completing a task, doing a hobby, getting a job promotion, having a good conversation, the list goes on. So in conclusion, you are pretty much getting a cheap high by smoking or vaping weed. That is, if you're doing it recreationally. And if you repeat this day after day, year after year, your body may not naturally respond to the natural highs of life. We want our bodies to work how they are supposed to work.
And dopamine is very important to our daily functions as it controls memory, movement, motivation, mood, attention, pain processing, sleep, learning, and more. So it controls a lot of shit. To increase your dopamine naturally, let's work at it. There's this thing called delayed gratification. And if you put work into something, such as running a 5K, after you practice weeks and weeks and months, and you finally complete it, the high you get from completing that journey in life is way more rewarding than just smoking a blunt on the porch. Now again, if it's your birthday, you want to smoke a blunt, do you? But be careful not to fall into the cycle of addiction. Your future self will thank you.